My name is Matt Beisner. I'm the director of the Edison Community College's Stagelight Players production of the Tempest, which opens on April 15th and plays through the 23rd. I invite everybody out there to come check out a really beautiful show that we've got. The Tempest is complex as far as plot line goes. It's basically it starts out where the former Duke of Milan, Prospero, has been exiled from his home country by his brother, and he and his young daughter have basically shipwrecked on an island, and they have been there for 12 years. And that's where our story begins. All of the noblemen and the queen, which we made a queen. It originally was written as a king, but we decided to make the queen, and it works out really well. But they're all on a ship headed for back home in Milan, and and Prospero creates this tempest, this storm, to bring them to his island. He notices that they're near. He has magical powers and basically a sorcerer, and he shipwrecks them to the island, and that's where the story begins. There's a lot of characters that sort of are thrown in from the boat. There's a drunken butler, there's a drunken jester, and Caliban, who is sort of a creature of the island, which they refer to as a monster. He sort of represents the indigenous people of the island who have sort of been thrust to the side.
The background of the play is that Prospero, the sorcerer, is also a former duke who was deposed by his brother wrongfully. And he tries to talk the brother of the queen into doing the same to her.
Shakespeare plays are called histories, tragedies, and comedies. They're called comedies because they have a happy ending. But it doesn't mean that it's just a bunch of jokes straight through, fun, crazy, wild, joking around all the time. This play actually has a lot of great relationships between people, and it's actually quite interesting. So.
Usually scholars classify Shakespeare's plays as comedies, histories, or tragedies. And if you think that those are the only three possible categories, then you have to classify Tempest as a comedy. But that doesn't seem quite right, and there are scholars who say that we have to create a whole new category for the Tempest, and they call it a romance. Normally we don't use the word romance in this period of history, but as I say, it's so special that scholars have kind of felt that it needs a label all of its own, and that's what's so special about the Tempest.
We've done a lot of Shakespeare shows here, and I think that this is going to be a lot different than the previous shows we've done, simply because this was Shakespeare's last play that he wrote on his own, which is wonderful. It's a great way to sort of promote it and say, he was kind of, in a way, he was at his prime as far as a writer goes. Sort of what he lacks in sort of storyline by throwing these wonderful, amazing characters all together on this island, he makes up for it in very vivid and beautiful imagery and poetry. I think that this show has the most beautiful poetry of any Shakespeare play I've ever read, and I keep reading it, and every time I hear the actors performing it every day, I think, wow, Shakespeare really did a great job with this one.
These are actors, as I foretold you, who are all spirits, and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit, shall dissolve. And like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep.
And you can't overdo too much with it. The great thing about it is you can sit there and listen to his words being presented in front of you, and that's all you need. Even though our actors are amazing, we cast it so well. Really, just being able to hear those beautiful words every day is enough. So,
Thinking about Tempest and Shakespeare's magical fantasy type plays. The sense of fantastic about them is it really opens up what you can do with it in terms of interpretation. I mean, Shakespeare is extremely resilient as a genre of literature in that you can do almost anything to it and it keeps its meaning no matter what you do with the shape. But it's really Shakespeare giving you permission to go crazy with the imagery and the special effects and depictions of non-human characters. I mean, this play and Midsummer Night's Dream and even the Scottish play to an extent, you know, give you that extra bit of oomph that you can really do spectacular things.
I totally forget what I do here.
You are three men of sin, whom destiny that has to instrument this lower world and what is in it. The never surfeited sea had caused to belch up you. And on this island, where man doth not inhabit you, amongst men being most unfit to live, I have made you mad. And even with such like valor, men hang and drown their proper selves. You fools! I and my fellows are ministers of fate.
Where the hell are you? Did I burst that window, throw it up? The sheets!
Good boasted, have care! Where's the master? Play the man!
Pray down, keep below!
Where's the master, bosun?
Do you not hear him? Our neighbors, keep your cabin, you do assist us to dance.
Nay, good, be patient.
Hence, when the sea hits, what cares these bars for the name of the queen? To cabin, silence, trouble us not.
Good! Yet remember who thou hast before.
I am also playing the part of Stefano, who is the Queen's butler, who escaped from the Tempest, the shipwreck, on a butt of sack. It means a big barrel of wine. I played a lot of drunks. And so the thing is to find the differences. And really, Stefano is turning out to be a very unpleasant person.
For my part, the sea could not drown me. I swam ere I could recover the shore some 5 and 30 leagues off and on. By this light, thou shalt be my lieutenant, monster, or my standard.
Your lieutenant, if you list. He's no standard.
Will not run, Monsieur Monster.
We are using quite an extensive amount of lighting effects in this show because there's a lot of storms, there's a lot of magical sorcery going on, really cool spectacle, you know. A lot of Shakespeare shows don't really lend themselves to a lot of that because back in Shakespeare's day, you know, if they needed, you know, a light on stage or something, they'd have to use a candle. I mean, they'd have people backstage, you know, making sound effects and things. But I think that's what's so great with doing it now is that we can use all of these special sound effects, and we use a lot of music. The Tempest is beautifully written, and it's very musical in the way that it's written. There's a lot of music in the play. Ariel, basically the sprite, the sort of we're kind of playing it as a figment of Prospero's imagination, has a lot of songs throughout. So I've done an extensive search for some music, and Chuck, who plays Prospero, also helped me come up with some great music to use for the production. So we are planning on using a lot of music.
Matt Beisner, our director's sense of wanting to really get at what is motivating the characters. It seems like it would be the self-evident thing to do when you're directing a play, but surprisingly few plays actually delve into that. And really, that's what you have to do with The Tempest, because in The Tempest, which is basically Shakespeare's last play, I mean, after this he only wrote plays with other people.
From the top again?
One more time, let's do it through now. This is it. I'm not stopping you again. And there'll be something to trip on. The edge of the stage will be there for you to trip on, so
You know, right now, like I said, everything's going to change when we get to our space, but I want you to know where you start and where you end up, okay? So, one more time right there at the end, and then we're going to move forward.
How's Matt's? Matt's my favorite director to work with, period, bar none. Maybe I'm just biased because it seems like we agree on so much, just in terms of acting and directing, and just theater in general. Yeah, great guy to work with. Very professional, very good personality. Yeah.
Actually, I think he's probably one of the best directors I've ever. Don't tell any. Just kidding. No, I mean he's more. I don't know. He's more flexible, I guess. He lets us do what we want to do, and if something goes wrong, then he'll step in there and tell us exactly what to do. Yeah, that's about it. I don't know. He's my brother.
Emily, give him a last
You know, when it comes to a lot of directors I've worked with in the past, the most important thing to them has been keeping with the traditions of theater. What's really cool about working with Matt is that his main concern is what's going to be entertaining to the audience, what's going to be fun for them to watch, and I like that.
Well, first of all, I think just doing a community college centered production is always interesting. We've got Edison students who are just taking their first acting class and haven't really done much of anything at all before. We've got people from the community. We've got a director who's professionally trained in this area. One of my co-actors who's playing Ariel, she's also professionally trained, and it's a wonderful mixture of people coming at it from all different backgrounds, and it's so much fun to see a production come together from such diversity.
I think that this play is a lot different than any of the other shows we've done here in recent past, at least since I've been associated with Edison. What's great about Shakespeare is that there's such a wide variety of plays, but this one is extremely different, I feel, than especially some of the more recent plays we've done. You know, it's got a bit of everything. There's romance, there's magic, there's a lot of comedy, there's revenge, all kinds of fun things, and the actors are doing so well with it, and I just think that the dynamic there is wonderful, so I think everybody will be thoroughly impressed with the show.
Now, this will be it will be seriously enjoyable. It's some of Shakespeare's best poetry. He really was at the top of his game on this one. Really playing to his strengths. Like I said, so it's lyrically magical. It's just, and we're going to put in a lot of just spectacular, fantastical, magical moments. Anyway, you have to see it.
The Tempest is a very, very special play. It's magical, it's romantic, it's exciting, it's funny, it's poetic. It's I think one of Shakespeare's greatest masterpieces.